Peace in your home doesn't start with the systems around you. It starts with the woman within you. If you want a peaceful home, you have to become a peaceful woman. That's it. Not a perfectly scheduled woman, not a hyper-productive woman, not a never snaps, never cries, never needs a break woman. Just peaceful, calm even when the toddler throws blueberries, gentle even when dinner burns, joyful even when nothing on your to-do list gets checked off. But here's the problem. That kind of peace isn't found in a printable. It's not waiting at the bottom of a tidy pantry or a color-coded calendar. It starts inside of you. I used to think the only way to finally feel on top of motherhood was to get more organized, more scheduled, more routines, more productivity. But peace never came from those things. The reason I'm so passionate about this is because I used to live every day in survival mode. I thought survival mode was just exhaustion and overwhelm, but in reality, I was living like a slave, reacting instead of choosing to respond with grace under pressure. So I just read a book recently about nurses in the Vietnam War. It was a chilling story, but the author described these raw, detailed war scenes that were so gruesome and brutal. It was honestly hard to take in. But at one point, she said that while in Nam, she was always either terrified or exhausted, and usually both. And that stuck out to me, and I kept thinking about why that resonated with me. And it hit me. I had lived so much of my motherhood like a war story. Panicked, terrified, exhausted all the time. Everything felt urgent. Every cry felt like an emergency. Every mess felt like a crisis. And I'm not saying I've experienced anything even remotely like what soldiers in war have had to experience, but my nervous system didn't know the difference. My body was living in a state of fight or flight, as if every moment of my ordinary, and to be honest, quite cushy life at home felt like a battlefield. And I know I'm not the only mother who feels this way. So if you are a Christian mother who's feeling burnt out and longing to be that peaceful mother and wife that you've always imagined without turning to expensive therapy or supplements or constantly decluttering your home, I would love for you to subscribe. And if you're new here, I'm Curie, and I help Christian homemakers who are living in a fog of exhaustion and stress to become the patient, peaceful mother and wife they've always dreamt of being. And if you're wondering how I went from barely surviving each day to creating a peaceful, joyful home, even when my circumstances didn't change, I actually walked through the exact process I followed in my free workshop. You can sign up using the link below. You can't control every aspect of your day, especially as a mother, but you can choose to be at peace in the midst of it all. So you have to fill your mind and your heart with truth. Matthew 12:34 says, "For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks." Peace isn't something you can manufacture with external order. It flows from what's rooted in your heart. And as Romans 12:2 says, "Be transformed by the renewal of your mind." Peace is not found in printables or productivity hacks or external control. It's an inner transformation empowered by God. Survival mode isn't just feeling burnt out. It's a form of bondage that keeps mothers from walking in the joy God intends. I thought being constantly stressed was just sort of what mom signed up for. But what I didn't realize was that I had become a slave to my stress responses and my triggers and all the symptoms that I had as a result. And my brain was firing off alarms constantly, even in situations that weren't emergencies. Mothers are often told to just declutter your house or buy supplements or change your diet and you'll feel better. But none of that touches the real issue, which is that moms are more at risk for something called nervous system dysfunction due to the unique demands of motherhood, like constant interruptions or chronic lack of rest or hormonal shifts and the relentless emotional weight of nurturing children. These factors compound over time and keep our bodies stuck in stress mode, unable to enter rest and digest mode unless we do something about it. So without intentional retraining, the nervous system doesn't know how to reset. And so we're living like we're in a war zone all the time. So until your brain learns to stop firing off these survival responses, you'll keep circling the same cycle of panic and guilt and exhaustion and then regret, snapping, then apologizing, then promising to do better, only to fall back into the same patterns. Parenting from fight or flight mode is like this. You're standing in the kitchen. I know that you guys can relate to this. You're standing in the kitchen, a baby wailing in your arms, a toddler screaming because their cup of milk just spilled across the floor. The timer on the oven is blaring and you need to get the food out. And you realize you also have to run to the bathroom like right now. And it feels like a bomb went off right there next to you in your kitchen. Every sense in your body screams danger. Every muscle ready to scream or run away or cry. Your heart's pounding, your mind races, your body is in total alert mode, even though in reality, nothing life-threatening has actually happened. But really, our nervous system should be able to handle this kind of situation, and our brains should be able to see it for what it is, an unfortunate, chaotic, and ordinary series of events. And then we should be able to take it one step at a time and take care of business. Clean up the mess, soothe the baby, reset the timer, and move on without the adrenaline hijacking the moment. But instead, we're trapped in survival mode. Our body reacts before we have time to think logically. Every spilled cup feels catastrophic. Every tantrum feels like a threat. That's not peace, and it's not freedom. God didn't design us to live that way. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind." That's paraphrased, by the way. Renewal isn't just about what you believe. It's about what your body and brain actually practice. And that is the foundation for how I was able to completely transform and get out of survival mode myself. But this transformation of going from constant stress and panic over every little thing to actually having some resilience and truly feeling peace in my life, it didn't just come from one change. It was an entire system of rewiring my habits, my responses, and even the way that I think. I had to completely change the landscape of my brain, and I had to get out of fight or flight by calming my nervous system. And that's the system that I walk through step by step in my free workshop. And I recently received this note from someone who took my free workshop. Her name is Lorna. She said, "Kiri, honestly, your free workshop changed my life. I took so many notes and I basically wrote down everything you said. I was frustrated that I couldn't afford your course, but I've clung to what I learned in your free workshop, and it has truly made all the difference. I'm still a work in progress, but just like your video mentioned, my husband noticed a change in me within 3 days. Thank you for helping me figure out what's wrong, and God bless you and your family." So if you'd like to make this same transformation just from a free workshop, you can sign up using the link below. It's the first link in my description. Survival mode isn't normal, it's bondage. And God offers us freedom, not by removing every stressful circumstance in our life, but by retraining our minds and our bodies to respond in a different way. Peace doesn't come from perfect circumstances. It comes from learning to love the messiness of life. So as some of you know, we just relocated from Washington to Idaho. And do you know what's funny? I totally underestimated how much I would grieve our old house. But here's the weird thing. What I miss most about what we now call the old house is all the things I hated most about it. The ugly red cabinets, the 67 different floorings, the tow truck business right across the street from us. They were annoyances and imperfections, but over time they turned into the landmarks of our life and our little home that we'd created. The red cabinets, they were hideous, but they were hideous. I knew exactly how the light hit them in the morning. The flooring didn't match, but they were the backdrop of all the late nights pacing with a fussy baby in my arms. Even the tow trucks rumbling across the street in front of our house became the soundtrack of our days. The joy my son had when one of the drivers would honk the horn and give him a hang loose sign. My point here is that we don't just thrive with beauty and when things are exactly how we like them. We bond with familiarity. We thrive with repetition, with the sweet ordinariness of it all. But when you're just surviving, it can be hard to claw your way out of the depths of despair to see life for what it is, a gift. Survival mode robs you of that kind of bonding. It tricks you into seeing your life as a series of emergencies instead of memories in the making. But when you live in peace, you start to notice the way the sunlight falls across the floor or the way your child's laughter echoes down the hallway. You start to actually enjoy the messiness of your life. And that's what shifted for me. Not just my circumstances, but the way my brain saw my circumstances. So here's my encouragement to you. Romanticize your life. Start treating the ordinary as something really very special. Because when you choose to see it this way, you're not just surviving, you're living in the fullness of peace God has already given you. So try this. Write something down like this. I am so in love with this life of mine. The house that's always filled with laughter from the children playing, the pictures that are hung just a little too high from my super tall, sweet husband, the familiar sound of the coffee grinder in the morning, the smell of popcorn on Sunday nights. You get the idea. Just go on, gush over your life, and then pray a prayer of gratitude for the life that the Lord's blessed you with. Let the gratitude swell up in your heart all the way up to your eyes till you start to feel the prickle of thankful tears. But here's the thing. Writing down little joys and praying gratitude over your life is powerful, but sometimes you need more. Because if your nervous system is still stuck in survival mode, you can list blessings all day long and still feel that knot in your chest and that pit in your stomach. And that's where most Christian moms unknowingly get stuck. They're begging for peace, but without realizing it, they're actually reinforcing the very stress response that keeps them from ever feeling it. For years, I begged God to make me calmer. I prayed that I wouldn't snap at my kids anymore, that I could be more patient. And this is something that I struggled with really my whole life, you guys. I actually remember one of my first jobs working as a barista at a coffee shop, and it would get so busy sometimes, and I would be alone, and I literally could not handle the pressure. I had people coming through the drive-thru and walking up in the lobby, and I would get so stressed and flustered that I couldn't keep up, and my mind would start racing about how the people are getting so mad that they have to wait in line. And then I would get mad that I had to be there alone to do all of this myself, and how this shift really needs to have a second barista. And one day, I was so visibly flustered that one of my customers wrote on the receipt that she was signing, she wrote, "Grace under pressure." At that time, I felt so embarrassed. But now, that phrase, "grace under pressure," is one of my anchors when I'm feeling the same way. So finally, through motherhood, when I was so desperate to change for my children's sake, the Lord revealed something to me. That I was living in patterns that were training my brain to stay in survival mode. The missing piece isn't more willpower. It's learning to allow your body to follow your faith. We must also teach our bodies to practice what we believe in our hearts as Christians. Otherwise, we pray for peace, but we still live in that state of panic. The beautiful thing about all of this is our endlessly merciful God who designed our brains to be renewed, rewired, and transformed. He designed them to be plastic and changeable. That's why stroke patients can relearn how to walk. People who are born blind can develop enhanced hearing as their brains rewire. Patients recovering from severe brain injuries can regain speech, movement, and memory over time. And the same is true for trauma survivors who can rebuild a sense of safety and calm in their bodies. Or people with anxiety can rewire their stress responses through consistent practice. Children can learn entirely new ways of thinking and behaving as they grow. And exhausted and miserable mothers can physically retrain their brain through biblical habits like renewing your mind. It's how we choose to think in the everyday firing of neurons, in the way that we respond to spilled milk and sibling fights, and in how quickly we recover when our plans fall apart or conflict arises in our home. And the incredible thing is, God gave us tools to do exactly that, to actually learn how to have grace under pressure. So I'll leave you with this. Find an anchor statement for those immense times of pressure when you feel choked by the temptation to scream. One of mine is grace under pressure, as I mentioned before. Use that or create your own anchor statement. But every time you start to feel that panicky feeling, choose to think and speak out loud your anchor statement instead of freaking out. It's a simple tool, but it will have a profound impact because you're teaching your brain that in these moments, you're still safe. And doing this repeatedly over time will begin to rewire your response to those immense times of pressure. See these moments as opportunities to reshape how your brain thinks. Be grateful for them, and you'll start to notice a shift. And for mothers who want step-by-step structured guidance through these times of immense pressure and stress, that's exactly what I walk through in my free workshop. So you may not be able to control every spill or every tantrum or every unexpected twist in your day as a mother, but you can choose how you respond. Peace starts in the heart and mind, not in perfect schedules or tidy spaces. Remember, for out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. When we allow God to shape our thoughts and renew our minds, as Romans 12:2 calls us to, that inner transformation ripples outward. True peace isn't something that we earn or manufacture. It's a gift that grows from the life God is cultivating within us, guiding every word, action, and response in our homes. So if you feel exhausted and miserable, like you're stuck in survival mode, it's not too late. You don't have to settle for reacting to life and constantly feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. You can become a peaceful woman. And if you feel like you'd like a whole set of tools that helped me to make this transformation, I walk through it all inside my free workshop. So it's the first link in the description below. And if you'd like to learn about the shocking way God heals women through motherhood, watch this next video.